Amber. How are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
I am excited
About?
about the next topic on our feisty journey.
You're excited, huh? Well, this one's a lot. Number 5 is I do not fear feedback. So what excites you about that?
Well, as coach, um, and I don't even know that you know this, but when I did my group and team coaching, literally the papers I was writing for my final were all on feedback. And so I love feedback.
Hmm.
It's one of my favorite. Very few things in the world give us more information than feedback,
Okay.
and so because of that, I love it.
So why don't you tell me about a time where you received feedback that you didn't love?
Feedback that I didn't love?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's lots of feedback that I didn't love.
So give me an example of
Yeah,
a time where you got one and then what'd you do with it?
yeah. I'll give you one that was interesting. When I was doing my postgraduate studies, I was about to get promoted by the military. Now, I had had a job where I was at the time I was in recruiting, which was a perfect job to be doing your post grad studies in, because I knew exactly what my schedule was going to be. I knew when I was going to recruit, what I had to do, and I had perfect access to the internet, which was incredibly important for those studies. And so the military gave me feedback called, "We're going to promote you and send you to the admiral's office and send you out to sea." That feedback should have been positive, but I received it negatively because it meant I'm going to lose my internet access and I'm not going to be able to finish my grad studies on time.
Okay.
And so I gave them the feedback. I'd like to delay my promotion or turn it down. To which I got the feedback. If you turn this down,
Mhm.
we're going to do what's called an admin review. An admin review is where you're going to have a panel and you have to prove why the Navy shouldn't kick you out right now.
Right.
That's some pretty heavy feedback to not love, where I'm putting my entire career on the line in order to move
Have
forward.
internet?
Well, having internet was the precursor to having my post-grad in coaching. And I didn't want to give up the post-grad in coaching. And so when I went to the panel was giving me all kinds of reasons why I should want to be promoted.
Right.
And I simply gave them reasons why I'm a better soldier sailor with this information than without it. And I can give you more of myself and more to the team with this information than without it.
And they didn't fire you.
Yes, they did not fire me. No, they didn't tell me that until after I had to leave and they had to go do their deliberation. But in terms of feedback, Martin, if you don't accept this promotion, your entire livelihood is on the line. It's some pretty powerfully negative feedback.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted me to say, just do it. And I was glad for that feedback because it challenged me to
Well, it
grow.
it certainly made you think about, well, what do I really value?
Yeah. And I did finish my postgrad and I did finish my terms of service and it was better overall. I appreciated their feedback because it moved me in the right direction.
Whether they would see it that way or not, it doesn't matter, right?
It,
Because, I mean, I think this is also where every individual is autonomous and gets to choose. So many of us don't feel like we have choices.
mhm.
And in reality, we always have choice. We always have a choice. And I think that's one of the reasons why, for me, I see feedback as a mirror, not as a verdict.
Mm, tell me about that.
Well, I think a lot of times, first of all, I don't like negative feedback. I want to just state clearly, I don't seek out negative feedback. It's devastating. Every time I've ever received anything that is potentially something I take personally before I think strategically or logically about it, it's painful. It's hurtful. So let me be clear, I don't like it. um, and I don't think that speaks to me as a leader that I'm a bad leader because I don't like negative feedback. The point is, I think our emotions, when we receive feedback, positive or negative, the emotions come first. Remember the amygdala hijack happens when we get feedback. And that is that, fight, flight, or freeze response happens pre-consciously. And
Mhm.
so when you receive feedback, if it's negative, in your case, if it's positive or anything in between, our emotions flood our brains first. But that immediately pushes us into this world where we believe it's a verdict. Somebody has proclaimed something about us and it's done. And although that may be true for the other party, how we review it, reveal it to ourselves, respond to it, kind of perseverate on it, that actually is a choice. And that is where we actually get to decide our own verdict on feedback. And so often, and me included, I forget that. In the in the harsh moment of receiving it, whether it's good or bad, I forget that actually I have a choice on how to respond to it. And I think that's the mirror part where if you can just take a beat, reflect on what is being reflected to you, and then look at it from a bunch of different angles, take some time. Um, i- it's not a verdict on you as a person. It's an indicator of something. And that could indicate, well, in your case, it indicated something you realized was more important to you than maybe you even had thought before. It's one thing to go to school and kind of be working on something. It's another thing to have that tested to the point where it's going to get whipped out from underneath you. And then you're like, wait a minute, is this the hill I want to die on? And you were like, yep, it is. And so, in some ways, it's like, that's really important. It's really important to be in those moments of being, and it kind of is almost like being tested.
Mhm.
But I do believe um, feedback is still choice. How you take it is our choice. And so often we don't feel that that's the case. I think particularly as professionals, you feel disempowered. I'm a speaker and a teacher, so I get a lot of feedback. And my feedback on my speaking and teaching is usually, 5 out of 5 or 0 out of 5.
Yeah.
And of course, just like everyone, when I get the 0 out of 5 worst time, I remember one bit of feedback I received. I did a 2-day teach, and one person in the course, their response was, worst 2 days of my life. Worst teacher I've ever had. Hated her. And I was like, "Ugh." And I have to say, I didn't get any middle of the ground marks from that cohort at all. All the rest of them were really, really good, like 4s and 4.5s and 5s. So it's just like it's a gut punch, because all I could think about for the first few days after that feedback was, well, like I did everything wrong. I didn't do that right, and I didn't do that right, and like I just tore apart these 2 days trying to come up with how I could have. And then I recognized, after a bit of time and certainly with more maturity and a little bit of EQ mixed in, wait a minute, everyone else's experience was quite positive. This individual, it was the opposite. And at some point, that feedback is a mirror that I can use to show something to myself, but I also have a choice on how to receive it. One of my colleagues at the time said, well, we always ignore the lowest and the highest scores. We just take them out and then we just look at the rest. And so in, in that case, you take the lowest out, you take the highest out, and what was left in the middle was the response was all great. But how do we do that in those moments when we receive the feedback? The challenge, of course, is most of us as humans, we don't, because it's emotional. It's an emotional flush. And the same goes for when you're told that you're awesome. You're awesome. That was so great. Well, it's emotional and you have this high, and I don't know, you feel like you're invincible. um, but in reality, that still gives you an opportunity on how to choose to receive the feedback and then what to do with it. I know a lot of people, when they receive that kind of feedback, their choice is to tell everyone and to brag about it. And there's nothing wrong with sharing your accomplishments, but there is something wrong with sharing your accomplishments and not wanting to then take responsibility for the fact that when you do that and how you do that has an impact on others. Because there are things that happen to us in life that, when shared in certain contexts, creates friction, conflict, separates us from others simply because other people maybe don't have the ears to hear how great everything's going for you. And the hard part is that as leaders, is we don't know going into the conversation whether that person's going to take it well or not well. And so you kind of, this is where when feedback is something that you work with as opposed to just receive, you have opportunity to grow and change. It's like, we don't have to have it define us. But when it becomes an opportunity to see something in us or to reflect something back to us that we otherwise wouldn't have seen, and we can grow comfortable with that and we can use it. We can even get support. I think, I was really poor at taking feedback until I started sharing my feedback journey with another professional who helped coach me through receiving feedback. And of course, the benefit of that is that it just gives me a different perspective. It's not all self centered on, oh, woe is me. It's someone who can critically help me think it from different angles. And I think receiving feedback is also something we need to practice as leaders, both for the positive and the negative. And like I stated earlier, I don't like it. And I don't think our goal should ever be that we love it. And you came really strong out of the gate saying you love it. And I would push back on you. I think you're lying.
Mm,
I think you're performing that.
okay.
But I agree with you in that I think what you're performing in that moment is you're using language that's positive because what feedback has done for you is it has been something that you've learned to leverage and it's created good things for you. I think attracting it and wanting it, I don't know. I feel like this is an area where all leaders we perform.
Sure,
Right?
sure,
Like
sure,
in
sure.
the moment when we're receiving it,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
even wanting to demonstrate that it's not that hard and it's fine and we're working on it and what's whatever. But
yeah.
if we're talking about that still quiet little squishy place inside of us that is the most vulnerable, I just think we all honestly it isn't fun. It isn't fun.
Oh,
Good or bad. Even the good stuff because sometimes the good stuff you're like, I don't know. Have you ever received good feedback where then you're like, "Well, really that's all you thought was good?"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it's funny how like even the good stuff we will in that little squishy part of us, we'll still turn it around and make
Sure,
it
of
negative.
course,
So,
of course.
I think it's important to like accept that this is a hard thing. This is
It is.
really difficult.
It is. So to be clear, and again, I love that we're having this live.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I just think our language sometimes
Sure.
miscommunicates it.
You
Yeah.
you brought out two different pieces, and I just want to kind of highlight the two pieces because I think that'll help you understand when I say I love it. I think these two things are true for me. And they're simply this. Number one, you're right. Feedback will have a reaction no matter what we do. And some of those reactions are conflict. Now, why I like conflict is it puts it on the table. That
Mhm.
conflict was already there, whether it was unveiled or not veiled. That conflict was already there. And I prefer unveiled to veil.
No, and I completely agree with you on that. And I think that also is it's it's like unrequited feedback. Like, what are we not saying?
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of rooms, a lot of meetings where there's a lot going on in there that no one's saying. And actually, if we got to the heart of what wasn't being said,
Yeah.
things would be
Yeah. Feedback makes the
better.
implicit explicit.
Yeah.
And I absolutely prefer the explicit
Yeah.
because then we know.
Well, and
Then we're in agreement. We shake hands on it.
but you don't fear the conflict either. And part of that comes from your training as a conflict coach and your awareness of how to hold space in those moments. And a lot of times, leaders, even really good leaders, this is not an area of expertise
Yeah. Yeah.
because it feels really vulnerable.
Perfect. And so I just want to, because there's two more pieces I just want to make sure I get in there. So one, I like unveiling. The other one that you said is feedback is best when it moves towards something you work on. And that's always true for me. Like if you can provide a feedback, good or bad, that allows us to move, my, connect, inspire line. Inspire is action. I want action. If your feedback, whether I like your feedback or don't like your feedback, creates an action that moves, I like seeing movement. At least,
Yeah.
and I want to be clear about the difference between movement and progress. We can move, but we might not be moving forward. If we can get that unveiling and move forward, those two things create the sense of I love that in Martin.
Mhm.
Now, that's the I love that as a professional. Do I have squishy, weird feelings
Of course.
about the things that happen?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If you turned to me and said, hey, you're ugly and your mother dresses you funny.
Yeah.
Remember that old
Yes, I
80s
do.
insult? I once got something very similar to that. Yeah. And even thinking back to middle school when that came in, there's still some squishy on that. Of course it is. Um, it's what we do with that. And you brought it up in this podcast, and you brought it in other podcasts, which is we're the controller of the lens through which we receive.
Yes. Yes.
And so I love, even when it's squishy and hard and hurts,
Mhm.
being able to look at that controller of the lens and say, what's working in this lens, what's not working in this
Well,
lens.
but you know why? Because your growth needs information.
Yes.
And if we aren't open or able to receive feedback, where will the credible kind of information about our impact as leaders come from? Because
Oh, yeah.
the other thing too, and we've also talked about emotional intelligence recently in that Feisty Manifesto, and it's like, emotional intelligence is not I'm a self-aware person. It's you believe you're self-aware, and all 5 to 10 people around you who know you really well also would say you're self-aware. Because self-awareness is not something you can just possess on your own. It actually has to be tested by the humans around you who also go, "Oh, yes, they are self-aware." And this is the funny thing is like Tasha Eurich's book called Insight. She did this massive study on self-awareness, and she recognized that like essentially 90% of us are wandering around telling ourselves we're self-aware, and yet we're not. So we are literally lying to ourselves about our awareness of ourselves. And that's a human condition. It takes expertise and dedication to like pull back the layers of what am I really experiencing? What is really going on with me? And then how is that impacting others? And feedback is this huge opportunity to
Yeah.
get the data.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, how do you if we need metrics, where are we gonna get them? It's like doing a 360 review. When you do a 360 review as a leader, which is, you assess yourself as a leader, but then you get like 30 people who work with you, engage with you, they assess you as a leader. That gives you a very different perspective on who you actually are because it's your impact. And as a leader, as a human, as anyone, we in order to change and grow, we need the data.
We do. We do. And actually, I would like to ask you a question live that I've never asked you
Oh,
not
okay.
live, which is go back to us meeting 15 plus years ago. If we had had a conversation with some of these topics, even back then,
Mhm.
we would have thought we were self aware and we would have thought
Oh,
we were totally, we had it.
oh,
We had
no,
it
I
locked.
I knew way more back then than I do now.
Yeah. But we have provided each other feedback over the years that has changed our brains. Like things I would have died on a hill for back then, I've completely given up
Yeah.
because you've punched me in the face with feedback that I couldn't ignore. And it wasn't that it was fun,
Mm.
but it was growth. And that the two people having this conversation, if we could go back and talk to those two people, man, aren't I glad for that feedback?
Well, I think,
What do you think?
I think feedback is the fuel for the next version of you,
Mm,
for the next version of me. That's the opportunity that feedback presents, positive, negative, or some version of that in between. And I think, you know, it's important for us to figure out how to hold someone else's truth about us and our effect on them without at the same time having their truth dismantle our own truth. It has the opportunity to just give us its insight. We're just like Tasha's book. It's insight into what we are doing, who we are, how we are affecting others. And, you know, when you receive feedback from someone else, we have to remember also that even though it can sting, and it does, we're actually receiving their experience, not us. It's either their experience of us or their experience of what was going on in their world, that then in that moment when they give you the feedback is them conveying their experience, but it's very heavily opinionated on their
Mhm.
side. I don't mean this to discredit feedback.
No.
I just say we have to remember that healthy perspective, which is why if you use it as something like, you know, a verdict on you as a human, it's devastating because it can put you in bed, literally. Yeah, I'm laughing because if you're from the southern U.S., it's very common to hear uh, women in particular, oftentimes mothers and grandmothers, who, you know, they would say, "Oh, I'm taken to my bed," and they go to bed and they're there for like 3 days because they've had bad news or something big in the families had happened and they can't handle it, and so they take to the bed. And I have had moments in my life where I've received feedback, and I have literally just taken to my bed. Like I remember, oh my gosh, my oldest would be 2 years old. So that's like 25 years ago, 24 years ago now, and I remember receiving, feedback, and the feedback was something that I had not taken care of properly. So it wasn't like, someone giving me feedback, it was like a whole situation that I had created from negligence on my part. Now, it didn't harm anybody else except for me, but it really affected my reputation with myself. Like, I
Mhm.
was just
Yeah.
like, "How could I forget that? I'm such a terrible person." And I remember with this 2-year-old taken to my bed, and, like, I remember, like, the 2-year-old kind of toddling around trying and I was just in bed with the covers crying, and they were like, "Whoa, mommy," and I was just like, I couldn't. I was so ashamed of myself
Yeah.
in this little moment, and I realized, like, that's where feedback gets really dangerous. It's okay to
Mm.
accept it and because you hear it as a verdict on you. It's okay to accept it in those moments and to feel those emotions, but do not stay there. And I think the feisty way forward is those experiences, those moments, they're valid. They serve a purpose. But remaining there becomes a real danger to ourselves because the feedback itself is actually someone else's shared, filtered experience of what they saw in you. And it doesn't mean there isn't validity there. It's just, it's
Uh-huh.
not the whole picture. And so that's where it's a mirror. It can show you things about yourself you
Sure.
didn't know. Like it shows me I had spinach in my teeth the whole time.
Yes, yes.
And then what can I do? Well, I can look at myself in the mirror and go, okay, I could probably pick that spinach out or I could brush my teeth. But also, it's to potentially set us up for growth, for change, for
Absolutely.
adjustment.
There was a thing I remember learning in one of my coaching neuroscience classes where they talked about, and it again, this doesn't work. It works for both positive and negative feedback. And what
Mhm.
they were saying was, Martin, people don't like you for you. They like the chemical soup that happens in their brain when they associate you in their brain.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. It's and everything to do with the soup they've created in their brain. And some of the feedback we'll get from that is positive and some is negative.
Well, and I think, this year in particular in 2026, I'm really focusing on I am for who I am for, which is actually a really great reminder to me about how to take feedback. That I will, I cannot, will not, and never could be everything to everyone. None of us can. So what that means is there are places, there are rooms, there are groups where we are for those places, those rooms, those groups. And there are others that we are not for. And that's also a really important part of feedback, being able to accept that like you are not all that on a bag of chips to everybody in every place. And that doesn't make them wrong or bad or you wrong or bad. It just is. So we take that feedback, we use it as a mirror to help reflect to us things about ourselves, and we pick and choose parts of it that are valuable, and we also let it go. We don't have it be this final verdict on our behavior. And, and I think this is the challenge too. I'm dealing with quite a few high level challenges right now in some projects I'm working on. And we're seeing people that are trying to fight for justice, fight for the right to the situation. And what I am seeing time and time again is interpersonal conflict and a lack of emotional intelligence. Now, they don't see it that way. And of course, I don't use those words with them.
No.
And but that's actually what's going on. There's a deep-seated interrelational disconnect, and those perceptual filters on those individuals and the others, we can't see clear. We can't see clear in a
Yeah.
lot of conflict. And that doesn't mean there aren't rules that we can't follow our way through to get to a healthier place. It's just the rules are not going to be what saves us. It's really this opportunity to see, receive, grow, change, and accept that these tough situations don't have to become the final say on who we are as people and who we are as leaders. But it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah. I love what you just said there, that we have a choice, and the choice is to accept what is useful
Right.
and let go of that which does not serve us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Feedback, even in this conversation where we gave each other feedback, is always, from my perspective, fun. Not always easy.
No.
Not always soft and gushy.
I know.
But I'd rather unveil it than not unveil it. So thank you for this very revealing conversation.
Agreed. Thanks, Martin.